The seven deadly sins. Which sin is the worst? So today we're going to talk about what the worst sin is, according to C.S. Lewis. Chapter 8 of Mere Christianity is titled The Great Sin. So let's begin with taking a few steps back first and seeing what's going on in Book 3. Again, Book 3, the focus is pretty much solely on morality, and two themes that continue to pop up in Book 3 are virtue and sin. And now a simple definition of virtue is a good habit, and a simple definition of sin is a bad habit. So today we'll be more focused. We'll actually touch on both of those themes today. So chapter 8 is the great sin. So what is the great sin? If you didn't figure this out already, it is pride. Now, the Catechism defines pride as an inordinate self-esteem or self-love, which seeks attention and honor and sets oneself in competition with God. Some synonyms of pride are arrogance, conceit, self-glorification. So pride is thinking that I know better than everybody else. I know better than God. I'm kind of, I'm the ultimate authority. I know better than all of you. It's just putting yourself too much at the center of everything. Let's look at some examples of pride, some pictures. So the first one is somebody who thought they knew better than God. So we know that is the devil. Here we got a picture of another example. Just look at the facial expression, the body language. Pride, again, is just kind of thinking that you are the ultimate source of authority. There's no need to rely on other people, on God. You already know everything. That's a dangerous road to go. Again, just look at the body language, the facial expression. This guy's kind of like, I already know it all, sort of, kind of attitude I think that body language conveys. Let's look at the opposite of pride. Now, Lewis is going to talk about this as well today in chapter 8 as well. The opposite of pride is the virtue of humility. Humility is a beautiful thing. St. Thomas Aquinas defines humility in this way. Humility means seeing ourselves as God sees us, knowing every good we have comes from Him is pure gift. Sometimes people confuse humility. They think it means just being weak or just letting people all the time walk all over you. On the other hand, humility really is just knowing the truth about ourselves, including the good about us, but also the ways that we are not perfect, our sins, the ways we can improve. A truly humble person is able to see both the good about himself, but also ways that he can improve. So let's look at some examples of humility. And also want to just draw your attention to when you read chapter 8, pay a special attention to the last 2 pages or so, because Lewis he's gonna touch on these nuances, how there's a difference between, yeah, it's good to be proud of a good job you did, a good game that you played. There's some level of pride that is good in that sense, but that's distinct from the sin of pride, which is an excessive focus on myself, excessive focus on I don't need help from anybody, like just making sort of yourself as the sole authority. And also at the very end of the chapter, it's really interesting. Lewis points out how sometimes people that are truly humble, we don't realize they're humble because they come across as so ordinary. So just kind of look for that too. It's pretty cool what Lewis says. So here we got Mother Teresa, a great example of humility, always smiling, willing to see the good in other people, um, willing to give up so many things to help other people, to kind of to serve God, to serve other people. This guy, sometimes people don't know a lot of the good, some of the really cool things about Kobe. He was a Catholic, actually. Actually, the day he died, he went to Mass. Um, so I honestly don't know a whole lot about his personal life, but I do know what I've learned about him since his death. Some of those things I was impressed by. Here's MLK, a great example of humility, willing to just fight for a good cause peacefully, be able to kind of respectfully dialogue with people, be able to stay calm, just another good person. This guy was brilliant. This is Albert Einstein. But he was so smart that he was willing to say, some of these things in this world, they're such a mystery. I can't understand it with my intellect. But I can see the order in the world. I can know that there is a God. So Einstein was able to have such a sharp intellect, but also had that humility to say some things I just can't explain through logic, and to be able to admit that there is a God. And then finally, we'll end on this guy, a great example of humility, willing to serve other people, to heal people, to tell the truth to others, whether they wanted to hear it or not, willing to suffer ultimately death for his cause. And this is none other than Jesus, a great example of humility, the greatest example. So again, we've got pride on the one hand, but humility is a good way to combat pride. So enjoy chapter 8.